Welcome back to Student Hub Live. Well, we've crammed so much in, but we've been running late. So I'm delighted that we have some help here from the Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics Department who are running our time management session for the super busy today. We've got lots of widgets we'd like you to fill in. How good are you at time management? Have you ever managed to do tasks in less time? Have you had to give up something to fit in your OU study? And have you looked ahead to identify pinch points in the next 12 months. So welcome Katy and Andrew and Sally. Wonderful to start thinking about this. Katy, can we start with you, please? And in terms of why this is such an important subject for OU students and what they need to know about time management.
Yeah, hiya, Karen. Yes, so I'm a bit of a religious zealot about time management because it is the absolute key to successful Open University study. So within the Open University, obviously we look at trends within what helps students to succeed, what sort of problems might crop up for students. And what our studies have shown time and again is that time management is a key to success for Open University study. And we're also aware of common kind of misconceptions amongst students that, they can squeeze in their study in the odd minute here and there, and it'll all fit in somehow, even though they're already super busy people, but they'll be able to squeeze in, 20 hours worth of study into an hour and a half. And we kind of want to address that straight away and just say, study takes this amount of time. Where are you going to find that time? That's where all this comes from.
This is about organising the chunks of time when it is available, and it's a completely different issue if you're already starting study thinking, how am I going to find those number of hours in the week, in which case it may be worth thinking about whether you can maybe give something up or look at something different. But assuming that we do have that time, then it's all important about how we manage it. And you've got some tips as well about things like zero inbox. That sounds an excellent idea. How might that be achievable?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you thought about studying with the Open University and you thought, well, this is the amount of time I've got free. Oh, and you know what? I'll give up this other thing. And now I've got my 18 hours study, let's say if it was that size module, and this is how I'm going to allocate my time to that study. Nevertheless, things start to pile up and lots of things arrive at the same time. And I'm also aware that we're doing this whole time management session in the middle of perhaps the most time demanding part of our lives, depending what's going on for you during lockdown. I mean, for me, it's the most time demanding part of my life. So I definitely want to go easy on the students this time, but still, good time management is going to help you one way or the other in any case. So there are time management materials on the Open University websites, and they split down the kind of the key tips into, it's like the 4Ds. They say, you can either do it straight away, you can dump it, you can delegate it, or you can do it less well. Now, one of my favorite ones is do it straight away. That makes me sound a bit better than I am, because my other favorite one is do it less well. And it's just a question of what are all the ways that you can do to kill your procrastinating tendencies? What can you just get it off your list? If it's going to be done in 5 minutes, get it in, get it out. If you're not going to do it in 5 minutes, can you look at your diary and say when exactly you're going to do it? Give yourself a date when you're going to do it, and don't worry about it in all the days on the in-between because you think, I'm going to do it on that day. So really it's about sitting down, making a plan, making sure you've got the space in the first place, and then it's about killing all the procrastination. Often work is it's a lot worse dreading work or thinking about work or thinking, oh no, I've got that big assignment coming, than it is to just sit down and do it. Just sit down and at least make a start, do a bit.
No, absolutely. Sound advice. Well, let's see what people say about their time management skills. So how good are your time management skills? Let's see what you had to say at home. Oh, pretty good, actually, I'd say, with 10 being the highest. So that's excellent. But a lot of people in the middle or slightly there. So some room for improvement, I think we could say from that. And some people with very little time management at all. I wonder if we could talk about the notion of procrastination, Katy, because this is something that came up a lot on our workshop the other day, and I know is a key thing for OU students, and HJ will probably be talking about this in the chat a lot, but avoiding procrastination is a really difficult thing. So you've talked about just doing it instead of not doing it, but how might you avoid that procrastination?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to sort of say something about that graph that we just saw as well, which was really good. But I want to say to everybody who thinks, oh, my time management is in the middle or bottom half, you're definitely going to get better because the OU has like scheduling ways and it's ways of making you drive yourself to carry on with studying. So you're going to get better at it. And I would say that with everything, wherever you are now, you can improve, you can get better. And then how to avoid procrastination. I think the first thing is perhaps acknowledging that you're procrastinating. So I don't know if you've ever sat down and started using every color in your set of colors to start doing some work, or you've start filing all your pencils, and then you start, rearranging everything in your house. Or if you've got that to-do list and there's the job that you've always hated, and then an assignment's looming, you think, oh, do you know what? I will clean the gutters out. You should start to sense where, what is a sign that you are procrastinating, and what is that feeling that's making you procrastinate. But honest to God, I can say to you that the feeling of the procrastination, the dread, all those feelings are much worse than just sitting down and having a go at starting. Really, just sit down, get a piece of paper, and just make a start. Don't think to yourself, I'm going to do it perfectly, I'm going to do it brilliantly. Just think, I'm going to make a start, I'm going to put down what I know, I'm going to do the bits I can do. And if you get stuck, you know that you can approach your tutor for help. You've got the resources to help you. But number one is it's not as bad once you make a start. So make a start.
Brilliant. No, that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We've asked people at home what they had to say about whether they managed to do things in half the time, which is an interesting one. And 68% said yes. Andrew, you might like to talk about that a little bit later. And another thing, have you given something up to fit in your study? No was the answer from 71% of people, perhaps because they're just starting their studies and perhaps because they're not giving anything up and they're just adding to it for a variety of reasons, which we can't read too much into. But lists are another really, really important technique, and they're one I sometimes use, although sometimes I can spend hours procrastinating making very elaborate lists. Andrew, what advice can you give in terms of techniques for lists?
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a good list, I think, both as a procrastination tactic, but also it just helps to actually order your thoughts, I think. So yeah, I actually think I'm of the opinion that doesn't count as proper procrastination when you're making a list. I think that you really have to find a way of making lists and to-do lists that works for you. I mean, I know Sally and I have got a colleague who, under normal circumstances, we share an office with her, who always has a notebook, and she's very organized. I'm very jealous of her, that she writes lots and lots of all of the to-do things that she's got, and she gets real satisfaction from just like scoring them off one at a time. And that, whereas I'm much more, I guess, more disorganized about lists. Whereas I'm more of rather than a zero inbox person, I'm more of a flagger. I would say, like, whenever something comes in, I just stick a flag in it. I think, right, I've got to think about that at another point, but not right now, and come back to it. And then it just helps to organize your thoughts a little bit better. And on the topic of lists as well, it's really important that you actually put down if you list something, it should be something that you can actually do. Don't put down, I'm going to study more, because at what point are you going to tick that off? Yeah. You have to have something there that's that's actually achievable in a short period of time. So I think that lists are great, but focus on the short-term things that, as Katy says, you can clear off your list as quickly as possible, and you'll feel a lot better.
See, one of the problems I have with lists when I'm making these lists is that I'll write things down like, write paper. Or things that are very large and unstructured tasks. And of course, I never get to cross those off my list. So then I'll be working all day and think I've got nothing to cross off this list. It's clearly not a very good list. And so I started trying to put times against certain things so that I could think, oh, well, that's maybe a 5 or a 10-minute task. And the really boring ones, I just was like, I'm just going to do it really quickly. It's a 5-minute task. I'll just do it, like as Katy said, not very well, but I will do it. So there were certain sort of priorities there. And I found that quite helpful. What advice would you give about chunking that time up for people in terms of what tasks they might do?
Yeah, I think what you've said there is really, really key. Like, if you focus on, because often the problem is that you feel really, really overwhelmed by the number of things that you have to do. But once you actually write them all down and you've can see which ones will only take you 30 seconds. As Katy says, that's the time where you really want to focus on just getting them off your desk, get them off the list, and then suddenly, you've only got a smaller number of things to worry about. So yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think also, you've touched on it already about looking at when you're going to do these things as well. And, being able to plan ahead is really, really key for time management as well. Looking at the study planner of your module website, looking at when the TMAs are due, looking at when, tutorials are happening, all these sorts of things, looking ahead and thinking, right, I'm going to be really busy in that week because I've got a TMA due, the following Monday or Tuesday or whatever. So I'm going to really try my best to clear everything, to give myself space for that really difficult week that I'll have ahead.
No, well,
I also want to
62% of
say-
our students. Oh, sorry. I'll just
Oh,
respond
sorry,
to
I
that
just wanted
quickly.
to add to that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say,
62% of people. Oh no, we're going over and over and over. You go.
I was just saying about the chunking time, because what you pulled out something really true there about you should never write a paper, a project that's going to take you a long time. It really has to be what is the first task you would do to start that, so that you write down the first task next to write paper. So it'd be write paper is a project, and then you break that down. What's the first paragraph? I'll write the first paragraph. So each of those things should be broken down, and you only really need to write the first 2 tasks down, because you're only going to do the first one first. So if you've got your project on your list, then write down the first task. Once you've done that, you can write down what the next task will be. So do chunk it, but you don't need to write down all the chunks. Just write down what your first couple of chunks are, because then you can do those, and that's another tool to kill the procrastination. Sorry to jump in there, Karen.
Oh no, that's a really good idea, actually. No, it's fine. I think we've got a bit of a delay, so I think we were both starting to talk at the same time. That's a really good idea, actually, because I guess if you've got a clear and logical idea of how to do things, you don't need to write everything down. So that's a good tip. Yeah, we asked people at home what they had to say about identifying pinch points, because Andrew was talking about those sorts of areas, and a lot of them have been able to do that. 62% have. But I want to go to HJ, because we've got lots of questions. And one of these I really empathise with from Jennifer is, what if you just sit down and then all of a sudden you get held up by technical problems? This happened to me the other day, and I was so annoyed. I lost 3 hours having to reboot my computer and just get back to normal. HJ, what other questions have you got?
Yeah, so we've got lots of good strategies for managing our time really well, and it's great to see people are on top of it. I'm glad to see that some people are like me as well, master procrastinators who manage to do everything else apart from what we're actually supposed to. Layla has a fantastic question that I think our guest can give some great advice for. So Layla says, I have ADHD and often hyper-focus and get too much information. This makes it harder and is time-consuming to filter information. Do you have any tips?
Very interesting idea. I wonder, Katy, if you might like to talk about that.
Yeah, that's quite hard. I'm not sure that I understand the nature of the problems that your caller is facing. I do think that, first of all, as well as having your list where you write down your next actions and then you go to your first action rather than looking at all of them, if that's the question, that's one way you can do it. Another system is to have a good way of capturing what's coming into you. So one thing that might be problematic for you, and is certainly problematic for other people, is if you've got tasks coming in through email, and you've got tasks coming in through your phone, and you've got tasks coming in, in the house, so there's like, oh no, and then there's another problem in my house, and then somebody leaves you a voicemail, and somebody sends you a text, and you've got like 9 different places where you might have to-do lists coming in, and they're coming from all these different directions, and how do you capture them all, and how do you not miss things because you're looking at one and the other. So one thing you can do is give yourself the sort of a streamlined capture system. So Andrew was talking about his colleague with a notebook. So I would say if you had like one notebook when you wrote down your to-do lists, and you wrote down everything that's come through on text messages and in your house, or it might be that you have one on a whiteboard and you've got your email. You should have no more than 3 inputs, if you like. So you could have your email would be one input, but if it was going to balloon into other tasks, you might have your whiteboard. So for me, it's just my whiteboard for my household things, it's my notebook, and then I've got my email. And if it's not on those 3 things, it'll never get addressed. But I certainly am not looking at a million places for where things are coming in. And then I've a much smaller place to prioritize. And then I guess it would be about prioritizing.
Yeah, can
Hope
I
that
also
covers the
just say,
question.
Andrew.
yeah, I was just going to say another thing to bear in mind as well is avoid the temptation to multitask, because multitasking doesn't really, is not really working for you. If you've got to dedicate you're not going to be able to do an essay at the same time as, listening to a podcast or at the same time. It's just not going to happen. So avoid the temptation to think, right, I can manage my time better by doing everything all at once, because you're just going to end up doing several things badly rather than one thing focused. Having said that, sometimes when I'm listening to something I need to listen to, or I'm going to an online meeting or something like that, I will often do something quite mindless to just keep myself busy. So if I've got a podcast to listen to as part of my studies, because I am a student as well, then I would end up, maybe folding laundry or stacking the dishwasher or something that doesn't require me to also think, because you can't think of it in two places at one time. But sometimes it's helpful, to me anyway, to have something to do with your hands, while you're listening.
Absolutely. Sally, I know you wanted to talk about ideas to sink in and having time for things like that, but I wonder if for this particular person, when attention can be a bit more challenging to manage, and perhaps there are some things where we feel a need to pay attention to everything before we can start, and I guess there's an issue of prioritizing there. What advice would you give in terms of allowing space for those ideas and knowing when it's good to mull things over, and what to attend to and what not to?
Okay, I think that's a really, really good concern, actually. Something that helped me quite recently, it was a course that I went to about resilience. The person giving the course, and don't forget, I've been this for a long, long time. So time management isn't something that you conquer and off you go. It's something you work on all the time. But for me, the piece of advice was for say you set aside a morning for your Open University studies, but the piece of information within that was keep your study sessions at 1 hour. So sit down, phones away, and sit down and on whatever it is you decide you're gonna work on, do one thing for 1 hour. Set your timer, and that helps you not to have too much expectation of yourself for a morning. Because I find that in the past, if I set aside maybe a day to do something, that's not useful for me. It needs to be organized in different chunks. And so, having said that, the other thing is, I think other things are important. One being exercise. So if you and sometimes when you're really, really busy, you think, I actually can't exercise, but lots and lots of studies have shown that actually, if you do haul yourself out of your front door to have a walk or something, then you're far more productive after you've done that. And while you're walking, it gives your brain a chance to mull over the things that you've been thinking about. And, if you're writing an essay, what might you write next? If you're in the middle of a maths problem, you're stuck. Okay, see what to do. So exercise is really important. The other thing that I think that some of the neuroscientists are saying just now is sleeping. I heard recently that sleep is the new smoking, and not thinking about your sleeping, which I know is very difficult if you've got very young children or anything like that. But all of these things
Yeah,
work together. Things work together to help you to achieve and make the best of your time. And I don't have a zero inbox, and every single day I try to avoid the procrastination. But chunk things into 1 hour. Make sure you work on your sleep. It's a big problem for some people. And you get outside and in the outdoors as well. And if things are getting on top of you, if you're stuck or anything, you cannot imagine how much support is out there in the Open University for you. And my big tip is to keep with your own tutor who works with the Open University, because that's what they want to do to help students. Sorry, Karen, that was a long reply to your question there, to the students.
No, it's excellent. we're out of time. I set my alarm, Sally, because I've been told to sort my time management out. So I thought I'd set an alarm, and we have done well actually, because we've got through everything except dealing with distractions. And I think this is the single most culprit of a distraction thing, apart from maybe the dog that I have. So I always have to try and banish that from time when I'm trying to do things. Right, we need to go. But thank you both, Sally and Andrew and Katy, so much for a really fabulous session. Some really, really interesting things to think about, and also some amazing suggestions in the chat as well. Thank you for sharing all of those with us. We'll try and put those up on our ticker tape for our next session. We're going to return in a minute for the last of our live sessions this afternoon with the Open University Students Association. So I'll see you very soon for that. We're just going to have a little video of our study app, which is really, really helpful for time management on the go. See you in a minute.